This is going to be a brief overview of IRLA modules that we have available as an intervention, especially for secondary here in Canvas. If you are not familiar with the different IRLA colors or bands and what they represent, just to quickly go over it, white folder, IRLA white, is equivalent to third grade. Black is equal to fourth grade, orange is equal to fifth, and purple is equal to sixth. So if you have a student that's significantly below reading level, these are some interventions that can be used during their choice reading time to help guide them in a specific area. So we're going to dive into the white folder right now and go over some of the requirements within the module. All of the modules have a teacher resource page that's unpublished. That's just specifically for you. They largely are the same. There's small sections that talk specifically about what that particular color band is looking for, but pay attention to any of this information. So I have not included a reading journal or a quiz for students to tell you when they finish a book. Students should be reading through books fairly quickly, especially at the lower levels, because their books are just able to be finished faster. So if that's something that could potentially help you keep track of how much they're consuming their books, that might be something to add. If you do not know how to level your students, there's a really great video here included, as well as the pages that are used or talked about within the video. So I highly recommend watching this, but also know you can contact us and we can take a look at the reportings that came out of elementary. So this is especially helpful if you're 6th or 7th grade, so we can kind of figure out where they were when they left elementary, because the IRLA is the most commonly used diagnostic that we have for students at the elementary level. So this video is great. It really does go through how to level a student if you are interested in trying to do that. With our rosters, I just can't see us doing IRLAs with 200 kids or whatever. So if you have a few students, that are kind of outliers that you aren't sure of, that makes more sense to possibly IRLA them or contact us, and we'll try and figure out a way to come and help you with that. But all of your instructions are here too if you would like to dive deep into what this work looks like. So when a student begins a color, they should do a cold read, and I will show you that a little bit later. As a teacher, this is something you really need to pay attention to and provide feedback on. The cold reads are going to show you if this is the right level for a student or not. If they stumble, if you need to then make a decision if they need to be assigned to a different cold read, which I've provided you with 4. There's 2 fiction and 2 nonfiction, or if they need to be moved back a level. This level specifically is working on building academic language. So they're going to be coming across quite a few words that maybe they're not familiar with. So we're going to have to work on strategies to help them, context clues wise, breaking down the words, that sort of thing. So in this level, they're looking to see that students gain 1,500 academic words that are what is expected to be proficient as a 3rd grade reader. So this is, again, really heavily focused on building vocab. In terms of the cold read, I know this is a purple entry, but I just made one and then stuck it on all of them. So in terms of the cold read text is over here, and then the students will be asked these basic comprehension in a quiz format in the module itself. So for the cold read, they will need to record their voice reading through. As I've gone through and done a preview of what the student experience looks like, you might need to print out some of these cold reads, and I will provide links for that within these teacher resources. Just simply because I've noticed that when you go to hit record, when you're actually submitting the assignment, it kind of blurs out everything else and it makes it a lot more difficult. They'd have to maybe open up a different tab to be able to read, so they might have to duplicate the page, or it just might be helpful to have the pages printed out. So that's just something to think about. You guys are going to know more about that and give me feedback on how I might need to change how the cold reads are set up in the module to make that work for you. Normally when this is done at the elementary level, a teacher is sitting directly next to the student that's doing the cold read. Due to the size of our classes, that's just not something that's going to be attainable. So doing it this way allows you to be able to go back after the fact and listen to it and make your determinations from there. It just seemed like the easiest workaround for how large our classes are. Also, you need to make sure that you double check any of the arrows that I have at the bottom, the navigation arrows, to help kids through the modules. If you are thinking about book selections, we've got a couple of different things to look for. This is just so you know, as a district, this is an ongoing thing that we're going to be working on and providing more resources for you in the classroom. So just know that that is something we are aware of. Okay, so if I go back into the white module, you'll notice the teacher resource page is right here at the top. And then we have kind of an overview page for the students on all of the things that they need to kind of accomplish, or kind of a navigation page. These are the arrows that I was talking about before. It looks like I might need to go back through and fix some of these images, so I will do that. Again, as I said before, this has got a major focus on vocabulary words. So there's quite a few different pages in here that are focused specifically on Quizlet flashcards. So we'll go into there. It'll look a lot of like repeated content, but it actually isn't. Each of the IRLAs come with this like white card or study skills card that's specific to what the students should be looking at and working on. Obviously here I have them digital. These students coming from elementary are going to be very familiar with what these cards look like. Most of the time they do actually have it printed out for them in the color that they are, a nice card stock, whatever. You can make a decision on if you want to do that or not. Otherwise it's digital and provided here on Canvas. So the front page of the white skills card specifically has great comprehension questions for both literature and informational text that they can use to answer in their reading journal. So on Canvas here, there is a space for them 2 times a week to take a picture and upload their reading journal responses. So again, just kind of like depends on how often students are able to do choice reading and respond in their reading journal, but this is where you want to direct those specific students to use these leading questions as support for particularly where they are at. Additionally, on the back side of this card, again, focus on the vocab. You'll notice that there's all sorts of language. So as we click through the module, I'm just going to click next. Again, you'll focus in on the fact that there is a ton of these Quizlet flashcards. So these are all of the focus is on all of those vocab words on the card we just saw previously. So I'll go back real quick. So there are flashcards for each of these words that you see on the back of this card. Now, in order for a student to move through this module, there are quizzes. So they can study the flashcards to their heart content. You want to give them that time during choice reading. You know, it is entirely possible that this could take months for a kid to get through, so just be aware of that. And especially as you get into like 5th grade, orange level, 6th grade, you know, those could take a full year. So keep that in mind, especially orange and purple, which we'll talk about in another video, because they focus specifically on reading lots of different genres. And so that will take a kid a while, right? So when we get into the vocabulary quizzes and actual quizzes in Canvas, you'll notice that there is a page that goes over what scores they need to pass. They need to get, I think I said an 80%. If you'd like to change that, feel free to. Right now, I believe like it doesn't let them move forward until they get that specific score. So they can take the test as many times. You can go in and change any of the quiz functions, obviously. Each of these does link to the actual quiz itself. So if I go into literature terms, you'll notice that there is that same information. They have to get 26 of 32 words, and it's just a straight up quiz. I can even preview it for you, but they're all the same. So match the word to its definition. So what is fiction? What is legend? What is genre? What is traditional tale? So these, again, all words that they would have studied in the multitude of flashcards that are happening over here. So literature flashcards, info text flashcards, language, tricky words, as well as prefixes and suffixes. And then down here you see all of those quizzes. Here is that 2 times a week reading response video. So again, they should be reading in their choice reading books and then doing a reading response in their reading journal. And then when they're you pick a day, maybe it's something you'd put into your direct instruction, but something like, you know, every Tuesday and Thursday, they're taking a picture of one of their entries in their reading journal and submitting it for you. So again, just another way for you to be able to come back and double check on their progress when the time works for you. If you feel like you can make it around to as many students as possible conferring, great. But I know sometimes that's very difficult. Now, additionally, the reading response journals are a great collection of data. That's one thing with the IRLA is that teachers are constantly, it's like a formative assessment, right? They're constantly going and collecting data on where the students are at and how they're progressing in their particular band. So for this is another way for us to gather examples of where the kids are at. So for this particular quiz, it's set up as a quiz, but it's not really a quiz. It's just a way for them to respond. So they have to be able to answer one of the literature prompts and then provide an actual paragraph for that literature response to one of their choice reading. This is very similar to some of the literature response, reading response journal entries that they've done before, but it's just a little bit more, this would be something that they would do towards the end. Like when they're feeling like they're almost ready to test out of white, then they should have a couple of entries in both the literature and nonfiction. What are these called? The literature responses. Again, as evidence to explain that they are ready to move out of this module. That's why it's kind of down here at the end. Additionally, each one I try to provide some different videos. Some of these are more elementary. I will preface that some of them are, and you can go in and change any of these. Down towards the bottom, a lot more about academic vocabulary, context clues. Maybe you can find other read to me kind of videos that you can pop in at the top. This was originally made for our elementary teachers, so that's why some of these videos maybe are a little bit lower if you're looking at this for secondary use, but you could get different read to me books to pop in here. I think just leave as much as you can or find more about context clues, academic vocabulary, prefixes and suffixes. Those would also work really well here since the emphasis is really on building vocabulary. Okay, so that's white folder, and that's how it should work during your choice reading time for those specific students. Again, any of the conferring that you might be doing with the student should rally around some of the questions and comments that can be found like on the white card itself. And if you have any other questions, please let us know.